All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm gonna make an attempt to swap the diff in the V. We've been dealing with some heavy rain lately in Florida. In fact, it just stopped like an hour ago, nonstop every day. But my goal is to get the 391 diff in the Drift V in this video. And I also have some other things I want to do. I don't know if I'll include that or not, but I want to do some welding, some exhaust hangers, and then give the whole rear end a good nut and bolt and take some measurements for some other Stansco things. But in the garage here, I mean, we have the Audi, which you guys have seen, but we have the black V here. It is up on jack stands up in the front because I took the stock knuckles off of it to put on the Drift V. So, you guys, I don't know if you saw the video, but the Stansco, you guys know the Stansco angle kit. I took the stock knuckles off of it. I didn't put the cut knuckles on yet because we're gonna bring the cut knuckles up north with us just in case we run into any issues. And I also wanna have them available for LS Fest, again, just in case we run into any issues with the angle kit. So Black V is just hanging out here. And then I brought the 3000 in yesterday. I'm still in the midst of unpacking, but then also packing to leave for the summer. But brought the 3000 and I finally put the hood on it. The vinyl on the hood needs some work because it's been sitting outside for months. But otherwise, this car was having an issue with the tachometer not reading properly. And I got a little Bluetooth dongle thing and hooked it up to a tablet. And I was able to see that the ECU is seeing the proper RPM. So it is getting all the proper readings, but I think the capacitors in my tachometer, which is a common thing, I guess, for these cars, have failed. And so I am gonna have to pull the gauge cluster out and replace the capacitors, resistors, one or the other, in the gauge cluster for the tach. But this car is all back together. It just needs, let's see if I can open the hood. It just needs me to really go through it and get all the proper vacuum lines on everything. The car has some boost leaks that I was chasing, and ultimately I reused a lot of the vacuum lines that I had before when I was just putting it back together to get it running. So what I need to do is rip the vacuum hoses out that go to like the boost controller and to the wastegates and just redo it with the proper fitting and clamp everything and, you know, just do all the vacuum lines right, clear up all those boost leaks. And then one of the brand new seals I put in the output shaft of this trans, I think is leaking. So I'm gonna have to revisit that, but which I think involves pulling the transfer case off too. I kind of forget. I don't think it does actually. Either way, still a little bit of work to do to the 3000 here. Some things to tidy up and finish up, but it's, you know, it's in good shape as it sits. I need to bleed the clutch a little bit more or I just need to adjust the pedal because the engagement point is super high. But yeah, 3000 is back together. It runs, but I just haven't really driven it just because I want to tidy up those things beforehand. Because what's happening is with all those boost leaks, it's like pegging itself to like max rich and not really running optimally. So the sun is out and it is brutally hot that quickly. So the V, we're gonna have to get it jacked up, get it on jack stands, disconnect the drive shaft and all that stuff to do the diff. But then also I need to raise the front. I'm gonna check over the angle kit, raise the front, because with that bump steer correction, it lowers the front of the car naturally. So this is like the super stancy fitment, and unfortunately I can't run this tight of a fitment, especially at Englishtown. I don't even know if I'd be able to get up on the trailer with this being this low in the front. This is like how my black car used to sit. It looks sick, but I can't swing it, especially if the rear was that low. That'd be nice. So I guess to get started, I'm just going to jack the car up. We'll get it on jack stands and I'll have to pull the exhaust off and then disconnect the drive shaft, pull the wheels, pull the knuckles in the rear, just kind of like loosen them, pull all the brakes off. But then that way I can get the axles out. Once the axles are out, diff comes out, and then we just repeat with our 391 right here. So the 391 is prepped. It is filled with fluid. I put a new rev shift bushing in it right here. and it is ready to go in the car. This is an SRX housing, and then what I did in a previous video is I took the CTS-V LSD carrier and I put the SRX ring gear on it and then put it all back into the SRX housing. So good, we have the CTS-V bearing or flange on here, and we cut that little stubby off there. So I'm hoping that we are all good with this thing in the car, but again, we're going to bring home the 373 just in case. But this should hopefully help with the gearing at the tracks that I typically drive and allow me to use their gear more and less of second gear. So yeah, pink means party diff. That's kind of my go-to. The welded diff for the 3000 always had a pink. It was spray painted pink. So pink is for party. So I'm gonna get this thing jacked up and get started on just the setup part of it. And then I'll check back in with you guys once we start getting into the nitty gritty of things. All right, so with the jack stands onto the subframe here. So my exhaust setup, these are my mufflers to pass tech, and they have these clamps on them. So I would like to ultimately weld these joints right here. That way I can ditch these ugly clamps. And then also I have some exhaust hangers to see if I can weld on exhaust hangers onto the subframe that will work for this exhaust configuration, because I've broken these straps before, and you can see there's a little patch strap in between there, and it was kind of temporary. I broke that one. So with this hitting the ground and whatnot, those straps do break over time, so I'd like to ditch them if I can. And I have some rubber hangers, and I have some metal bars and all that jazz. So that is the step to come once I get the diff done. Diff wise, we have our bolt back here, we have our bolt up over here. You can see the green rev shift bushings, and then we have a bolt up front, and then we'll be able to lower the diff down once we pop the axles out. And then we have our drive shaft flange up front there that will also have to come off. So we disconnect the actually I think that goes all the way through to the diff. I don't remember if there's an adapter on there, or actually I think there is an adapter, so we have to like unscrew the drive shaft from the adapter and then the adapter from the diff. A little health check on the Stansco parts. I don't even use the right hardware on my own kit, but the handbrake, Stansco handbrake, I am gonna probably replace those with the proper bolts that go into the caliper, but everything looks good there. We have our dual caliper line kit that comes up from in there in the spare tire well. Here's another look at that side, dual caliper line kit, and then our dual caliper bracket, and it runs through like the factory little hanger spots there. You can see there and there. So fits perfect on the V's. Stansco.jp if you're interested in picking up either of those. And then we're also going to take a look at we got our Stansco toe arms up there. They're holding up nicely as well. They got quite a few events on them, about 2 years on them. We're going to be making some adjustments there as well. So, all right, now I'm going to quit rambling and then get to work. I'm going to pull the exhaust. That part kind of sucks. And then, but unfortunately on these cars, that's the first thing you have to do. Someday, when I have the money to get an exhaust made, I would love to have like some V-bands in the middle of the one, the exhaust be tucked up higher, but then have some V-bands like in front of the diff. That way I can actually pull the back half of the exhaust off if I wanted to, instead of always having to pull it from the headers. These V1s, no flex pipes from the factory, and it's all one piece from the factory, I believe. I'm like 99% sure on that. So, all right, time to get to work. All right, so I have one full corner taken apart here. I just want to point out, yeah, we got a thunderstorm coming as well. So I just pulled everything in. Gonna take a little bit of a break. It did just really cool off, which was nice. But I want to point out, check it out. This is the first Stansco handbrake bracket we ever made. Holding up very well. 2 years of events. This is our same chromoly kit that we use now. Coated with Steelite, and it is holding up very well. This thing has been through plenty of rainstorms, plenty of rain drifting, plenty of dirt drops and just mess. I mean, you can see everything else around it. But I pulled the tow arm out, and I'll show that to you guys. It's DeFusco tow arm. We'll do a little health check on that. And then once the rain stops, we're gonna pull this bolt for the LCA and the spring bucket. And then we're gonna pull this trailing arm bolt out here. And then that will allow me to swing the knuckle out of the way and up on this lower control arm so we can push the axle out. And then once the axle's out, we can pop it out of the diff. All right, so I'm on the bench now while it's raining. I figure I'll give you guys an update on the DeFusco tow rod. So we have our outer bolt here. I am going to be offering replacement outer bolts. These guys, I've had a lot of guys hit me up about outer bolts and the size and thread pitch and where you can acquire them at. And I figure, why not? We'll offer an outer bolt. So that'll be coming soon. We have our stainless steel spacer here. We have our cone adapter. And we'll do something maybe if we can that has a hex flange or a flange bolt that we lose that washer. And now it's downpouring. I can hear it on the garage door. We have our rear caliper bolts, which is another one. We do currently offer front caliper bolts for the V's. And now these are out. I'm going to take my measurements and we're going to offer front caliper bolts. Nice flange head, zinc coated bolt. They're grade 10.9, so they are the same grade as the OEM bolts. And they're just nice pieces because these things can definitely get worn out and roughed up over time. So rear ones, we'll offer them as fronts, rears, where you can buy a full car, the whole kit. So move those aside. Now we have our tow rod. Now this tow rod was the R&D rod, and I don't even think I put anti-seize on it. So just checking heim joint movement and play. We are still in pretty good shape on the heim. Let me take this bolt out. I'll check the inner heim. So this is our rear bolt. This is the factory bolt. And then we have our spacers here. Now we actually have redesigned the kit to where we ditched these steel spacers, and I wish I had one to show you right now, but I actually just shipped out a set today. But our new spacers are aluminum, and they have like a little wider head on them for where they come in contact with the subframe. So they're nicer. I mean, these obviously still do the trick, but we just changed it up to the aluminum ones. And we have our factory bolt here. Should I offer a replacement bolt for this, for the inside as well? Maybe, we'll see. I have it out, might as well. And we'll check the inside for play. And yeah, same, we're still in pretty good shape on the inner heim. So the one thing I wanted to do was when I installed these were like the test kit to make sure they work. And honestly, I installed them wrong from how I do it on the instruction sheet. When I put it on the instruction sheet, I say to put your your heim joints all the way in, bottom them out, and then bottom this out, and then unscrew from your center adjuster to match your factory length. Now I didn't do that with these, and the issue with that is you're adjusting your inner heim, and if I want to add toe in, I have gotten to the point where I've maxed in my center adjuster, but then I'm out on the heims, and my heims are uneven, as you can see there to there. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. So I'm going to reset these. I never even anti-seized these, so we'll get a look at that. I don't think I did. And like I do all the new ones, when you order them, they get like a little dab at never seize when I screw them in, just so there's like a little thin coating on there, protect it and keep these things easily adjustable. So I'm going to take a length measurement from heim end to heim end. And we are at 15 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to try and match that, but let me disassemble this all first. All right, so I finally got it loose. Your boy had to use a little convincing on this one because, like I said, I never put any C's. I did put them on the outer heims, but Genius Mike never put them on the center adjusters. So, like I said, if you buy them, they come with never C's on the center adjusters. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. I'm going to wipe these threads up.
And then we're gonna get a little dot of that good stuff. I'm gonna end up covered in it, but it's worth it in the long run. All right, so we're all hooked back up here. Everything's lubed up, good to go. And 15 3/4 was our length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement here of our full arm. It is 14.5, so we need to go 1.25 inches out. I'm going to try and do that all via the center adjuster. So I'm going to hold both bars here, prevent them from spinning, and we're just going to crank away on our center adjuster. That's why this is really nice to have on the car. But me being stubborn, I didn't even follow my own rules. So we're at 15 inches. So and now we are at 15 3/4. So with that, I'm gonna lay these heims down flat. We're gonna spin our lock nuts in place.
All right, so I got the passenger side disassembled as well. Took the tow arm off again. Just gonna give it a little refresh as well. And now I'm out of breath. I got the drive shaft off, as you guys saw in the time lapse. And then I started loosening the top bolt that was on this side. I think it is. I can't see. The bolt, yeah, the bolt right up here. This guy. Start loosening that, got the nut loose, so I'll just have to get on both sides of it to continue loosening it. But now I'm just breaking these rearmost bolts free, and then once everything's kind of just free spinning, thankfully this stuff's all fresh. Honestly, I can't imagine doing this on my black car with the subframe in the car because I think it's a little crusty. We'll get to that another day. So one thing I want to note on here is guys have talked about the rev shift bushings for the diff pulling through, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I forget if I added these. I could probably tell once I take one off if there's like a hardware store like stamping on it, but I could see these diff bushings pulling through if you don't have a big washer that takes up a majority of the surface area of that bushing on the back side of it. If you just have your bolt and then the little washer that's attached to the bolt on there, I can see how over time it's going to start yanking that polyurethane through. But so far, after 2 years in drifting, from the looks of it, this bushing still looks okay. I mean, there's no like indent or anything like that. It is still holding true to shape. So I would say if you have these rev shift bushings, or if you put them in your car, again, I forget if they come with these big washers, but make sure you have some big fender washers on there to help distribute that load of the bolt and I guess the force from the diff from pulling it through the subframe. So I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get the jack under here first, and then I'm gonna undo all these bolts for good, and then we'll lower this thing down out of the car and get the 391 ready to jack back up in, hopefully before the next round of thunderstorms. All right, there she is. My 237,000 mile diff that was still working perfectly fine. So, diff bushing's still good on here. I have my extended vent. Then I'm gonna move over to that diff. I need to modify this a little further. I gotta put a hose clamp on here because it was leaking, and then I'm gonna relocate this to a better spot. Maybe, I don't know, we're gonna see where this hose reaches to and try and find a better spot, because without it, these things will push fluid out with regular street driving, and with drifting, this thing was pushing it out of the extended vent, but that zip tie was not adequate. Whereas up here, I have a fuel hose clamp. So, and there was obviously no leaking on the diff, really, maybe a tiny bit, but here was making up for it. All right, so we have our diff in. We got all of our bolts paint marked, as you can see. It's like this special kind of like thick paint, I guess you can call it. And what it does is it like dries and hardens. So if a bolt loosens, you'll see it actually crack where the bolt is. So I hit all the nuts and bolts with that. I put the updated hardware on the dual caliper bracket, the one that I actually use in the kits. Hopefully we're gonna get to ditch this. And I was looking for the exhaust hanger side of things, that there are these hangers already on the subframe. So I'm wondering if I can put a rubber hanger and have one of those rods that I have come straight down, and see if it lands anywhere on the exhaust pipe, that I can just weld a rod on the exhaust pipe and then already have an existing hanger on the subframe, save myself some work. So I'm gonna call it as a stopping point here tonight. We got some things to do, but we have one side in, one axle in, and then tomorrow I will do the other side and then hang the new remote vent location. I have a better idea with what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to like loop it and then put it somewhere else up high in that area over there. I don't know why I had it come over here, but as you can see, it was leaking everywhere. But yeah, toe arm on this side, refreshed, lubed up, put back together, and I match it to the other side, so I'll have the same toe, whether it be the amount of toe that I want or not. I'll have the same toe on each side. And I do plan on trying to get this thing on the rack soon, especially with all the angle kit stuff in the front. But over there on that side, I just have to put the axle in and put the suspension back together, and then we'll hook the drive shaft up and then do some exhaust work. All right, so let's jump back in. It's a few days later, and I decided to do something that resulted in extending my project by about another day and a half, 2 days. So I decided I'm gonna put some ARP studs in. And that was the last thing I did. Put the whole back left corner back together, and I go to tighten my wheel, and one of the studs decides it's gonna strip out in the hub. Now my issue was that I didn't have any room. I had like an inch to access it from the back. Basically, I just then had to, after like 4 or 5 hours, Morgan was helping me, and finally I got a Sawzall blade between the wheel and the rotor, and at like a 45-degree angle, I cut through this stud. So, yeah, fun stuff. But I finally just got it back together, and on top of that, I also welded up some exhaust hangers, so I'll show you guys that. So the 391 diff is in. I still have those exhaust straps bolted up, just in case. I'm just gonna leave them there for right now, do a couple events with these new hangers, and I welded the cherry bombs. Everything's painted just flat black. Welded the cherry bombs into the exhaust, so we ditched all the clamps, and we have just these like turn down things here. And then I use the factory hanger locations there, and I welded up some hangers onto the, wherever they landed. They landed on the cherry bombs, so that way we no longer have to use those metal straps that kept breaking on me. They weren't the most reliable thing, and they weren't very pretty either. So at least I ditched all the clamps, all the metal straps. Now everything's all welded. I'm using a flux core welder. This is a gas welder, but I haven't bought a bottle for it yet. So I've just been messing with it. I put some flux core wire in it. It'll do flux as well, but put some flux core wire in it, and I've just been messing around with it. And I kind of got it figured out enough for the exhaust. It's a little messy. I have messed with some, sorry for the wind noise if there's any. I have messed with some MIG welders in the past, and I've done some cleaner work, but it'll definitely hold and do the job for me. So pretty happy about that. Really got the back end here cleaned up. And then I also tied the diff vent up in there. So our diff vent, and I also threw a loop in it. So our diff vent now has a loop, and then it sits all the way up there. So hopefully with that, it'll no longer leak like it did when it was on that side. So I gotta wipe all that down. But now I think it's time to finally put this thing on the ground. I got the new, oh, let me show you these. I got the new clamps here, those slip joint clamps, and they're tight and on. So hopefully we have minimal leaks up here now. And I'm just waiting for my Ackerman plates to come in for the angle kit. That way I can finalize that. I still got to do some clearancing up in here and then raise the car as well. I found out with the roll center correction that it lowers the car. Makes sense. And then I also did some trailer mods here. This is some real booger weldy work here, but I need to, yeah. So I got this fuel jug holder, and it's a bolt-on thing, but I figured I could put them out front of the trailer. So I ended up welding it there, and then along each crossbar. That way, I mean, I can move the whole trailer with it. So a fuel jug will go in there and strap down, and then I'm gonna get another one, put it on this side, and a fuel jug will strap in there. That way I can bring both my fuel jugs. I don't have to worry about putting them in a car. And then when I do the tire rack, this bin will have a location and it'll all get cleaned up and be a little more usable. All right, so now I'm gonna get this thing back on the ground for the first time in many days. I gotta torque the axle nuts before I forget, and then we'll start it up. I checked the front nut and bolted it, make sure it was tight. I don't really plan on taking this far. I saw some things are loose because I need those updated Ackerman plates to come in. So I'm really not gonna drive the car in this one, but I did wanna show off. If you guys saw it already in the last video, depending on the order of which these are going up, Evan Lewis at Pure Performance Texas makes these sweet new pieces here. And basically what they do is they allow you to, if you have an aftermarket steering wheel, which I do, I have this grip roller wheel, you lose your buttons. And before I had my buttons all tied up pretty gross under there, and I couldn't even reach them with the harness on. So Evan makes this 3D printed panel that you can put the circuit board for your buttons behind and mount this anywhere you want, really. And then you can extend your wires or somewhere where your wires will reach. And it allows you to toggle through your control panel screens so that you can see everything that you need to see in the car, which is pretty sweet. Because I like, you know, when I'm on track, I like having my coolant temp readout, but then I will often switch to oil pressure and just oil temp, and every now and again I'll just scroll through and make sure everything is doing all right. And you can also have the cruise and all that, which I don't have in here, but this is a pretty sweet panel, going to be very useful on track because when I'm sitting back in my seat I can reach it and actually check things. So let's start this thing up and see if it doesn't leak or is a little quieter up front. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. You know what? My wideband is still not plugged in. I got to get back under and plug that in. But yeah, there we go. It's definitely quieter up front, that's for sure. All right, so I know this video is kind of all over the place, but we finally wrapped it up. The 391 is in the car. I made that video of assembling the 391 like over a year ago at this point. And I know some guys have asked me if I've used it yet or what I thought about it. So hopefully the next time we have this thing out on track, the 391 is going to be in it. So I'm going to be doing some street driving. This thing has to get loaded on the trailer on Wednesday night, so 2 days from tonight. We are pretty much done with it as far as prep goes. I am going to bring all my wheels, my tires. I'm going to repaint my wheels while we're up there. And I also shipped two upper ball joints to my parents' house. I got to do those while I'm there as well. And I'm going to finish up the angle kit stuff on the side. But this thing's getting loaded. I will make some videos while I'm in Pennsylvania. We're gonna do some car meets and we'll be doing some car hangs with the guys and whatnot. So there will still be some content coming, but my main goal is to get to the track as soon as I can while we're up there, outside of our vacation time. And hopefully we can get some good testing with this angle kit so that we will come back into Florida and really open it up for you guys, make it available. But then also we're gonna be heading right to LS Fest shortly after that in September. So it's gonna be a busy one. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging around. If you want any CTS-V drift parts for the first gen cars right now, only stansco.jp. Tow rods that you saw on the car, the dual caliper bracket, the hydro line kit, the rear crossover line kit. We have our carbon intakes and plenty of other things on there. We have almost everything you need to just hop in and drift your first gen CTS-V, and we are continuously adding more things. This angle kit is hopefully coming soon. So thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck with me. It hasn't been easy. It's been hot. This car's been pushing my buttons for sure, but I'll see you guys in the next one.